Welcome to the Expert Speaker Podcast. We're here with speaking legend, Alan Samuel Cohen, Chief Story Catalyst. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
You and I had the pleasure of working together, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago, and you were already a professional speaker before I met, author of the book, what's it called, Connected Leadership?
Uh, that's actually my LinkedIn newsletter name. Good recall. No, it's the Connection Challenge, which is about how to create connection in a distracted world. That was the one that you're probably thinking of.
Yeah, and now you are working with executives, business owners, helping them become better speakers. And you've had a lot of experience with
Yeah,
TED Talks. Now, you must have given a TED Talk at some point, yeah?
I did a TED a few years ago called the let me see if I remember, the Magical Power of Shared Purpose, in which I talk about my experience leading the publicity team for the Harry Potter books. The That's probably 20 years ago, and how any team can navigate through chaos when they align around something bigger than themselves. So the Harry Potter book launch it was kind of a mess, believe it or not.
Oh,
But the group came together because it was about getting kids to read quality books of fiction.
so what's the way to bring a team together in chaos?
Well, there's a lot that goes on there. And first, it's really about people making commitments to each other and that bigger thing, that bigger purpose, but it requires people to put aside a lot of their own turf and ego, and to recognize that the greater good is going to ultimately make everybody more successful.
Yeah.
So when I go into companies, I use a process, and it's straight coaching, really, just to get people to align around a shared set of values, and to understand and acknowledge each other's strengths, and then work through a lot of the ugly, messy, toxic behaviors that many people on this call probably recognize in their own teams. So
Yeah.
it takes work, but it's always good. There's always a payoff.
So you call yourself the Chief Story Catalyst. What is story? And I know you and I both love the power of story, but I want to just get your perspective on it. And I know you work with leaders, and storytelling is one of the effective tools you use. Why stories? Why are they so effective? And what makes a good story?
Yeah. So when we hear a great story, it puts our whole brains to work. Those neurons fire up. We connect with the speaker. If you hear someone say, "I've got a great story for you," or "Let me tell you a story," you're automatically leaning in, and so there's great power in that. It's something kind of primal, right? It goes back to cavemen, the cavemen era, sharing stories around the fire. And we are hardwired to want to hear and appreciate stories that are told. It builds trust, creates engagement, and there's nothing better than a well-told, well-crafted story that's even more powerful than hearing a bunch of statistics and facts and PowerPoint slides. So I work with executives, whether it's sharing stories to inspire a team, or to get stakeholders to align around a vision, or whether it's a speaker just to improve the quality of their public speaking. Stories matter, and we all have great stories too. We're all sitting on a treasure chest of amazing stories, but a lot of times we just don't know it. So it often is helpful to have that outside party
Yeah.
hear what you're saying and go, "Whoa, wait a minute, hold on, not so fast. Like, that happened to you? Tell me more about that."
Let's
Take
go
it
a
from
little
there.
deeper. Let's go a little deeper there. You said we all have good stories, even when we don't know it. What would you say to a client who says, "Yeah, but Alan, I don't have good stories."
Well, I call BS on that. So the reason why people tend to minimize their own stories is because often they haven't experienced catastrophic events in their life. They didn't have near death experiences. They didn't scale Mount Everest. But that doesn't mean that their human experience isn't something that others can connect to. And in fact, I believe that it is our sometimes ordinary lives that are what other people really can connect to, because as even though our lives may be ordinary, the emotions that we've all experienced in our lifetime are the things that other people can relate to. So whether it's grief or excitement or fear, we've all had that happen to us, even though we maybe haven't faced the saber-toothed tiger directly in our lives.
You're talking about saber-toothed tigers. I sense a caveman analogy.
What is going on with me today with that? Well, well, that's just that's just the power of the amygdala, right? The fight or flight or freeze, and
right?
uh, that's we are conditioned to navigate and keep ourselves safe from those oncoming threats to our
Yeah,
safety. But in modern day era, it's not the saber-toothed tiger that's coming after us. It's the creditor. It's
that's
the
right. I was thinking
right,
the same thing. The credit card companies.
right. But we have the same. But it's the same emotion. It's fear is fear is fear.
Now you have a training program, coaching program specifically to help people figure out their TED talk, right? And
Yeah,
I guess the idea with TED is you got to have an idea worth spreading. And I've met so many people who want to do a TED talk, but they've never applied
right.
because they haven't really honed the idea. And I understand you're very good at that. Uh,
Yeah. So actually, I
how
have
would
a
you do that?
program commencing another cohort commencing later in October. And if folks want more information, they can reach out to me. The It's all about getting the big idea right. So if you get the big idea right, if you define it and refine it, that takes a lot of the challenge of the application process off the table. You've got the great idea, but a lot of people uh, they they need the support of others for feedback. They need my support to help them really tease out that idea and find a way of saying it that's different. I say, well, there are not that many great new ideas under the sun. That's probably true, but it's how do you say it in a fresh way, bringing your own story into it as proof.
Yeah.
So it's really working on the premise
Yeah.
to that you can prove through story and through facts and through figures. But I think there are so many TEDs going on around the world. If you really want to do a TED, there's no reason why you can't put yourself through the process. You'll probably land on a stage. The thing is, what I see is a lot of people want to do TEDs for the wrong reason,
Yeah.
and that's to become famous or to sell a product or a service, or
Yeah.
because their mom told them they were a great speaker, and it's not about being a great speaker. It's about having a great idea,
Yeah.
and so that's where I come in.
Something I'd love to share with you.
Please.
I did a TED talk and I have an idea for a second one and I
Yeah,
want to run it past you. May I?
please.
So my first TED talk was called How Leaders Tell Stories.
Mhm.
And it was blatantly a business building, brand building. I wanted people to watch it and hire me for my public speaking coaching. Right.
Yeah,
This next one,
but that worked pretty well for you.
I think so. I think so. Um, yeah, it was a dream. It was on my vision board. Funny thing was it was on my vision board for years and I never applied
Huh.
until I finally started applying and then I, got it. Um, and I do think it's an important message to understand, the power of storytelling, how leaders tell stories.
Yeah.
This next one, here's my idea. And uh you're inspiring me to just start applying because I think it's a good idea, but I'll be happy to hear your
Let,
feedback.
let's do it. Let's do it.
It's called How to Travel the World in Two Simple Steps and Why You Should.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a long title.
Work
Uh,
with that.
the simple steps, step one, book the flight. Step two, figure out everything else later.
Hmm.
And I go on to explain how the more you add steps before book the flight, the more likely you're not going to go. Like, for example, checking your bank account. Oh, no, I'm not going to go, And I go on to say this is my strategy for world peace because I believe that more people in other people's countries, going in other people's homes, having dinner with other people from other countries creates more peace. And
Hmm.
also, I heard at one point, I'll have to verify this before giving the talk, but I heard at one point that only 1 in 3 Americans has a passport,
Hmm.
which means 2 out of 3 Americans have not left the country. And so it's an encouragement to travel as a way of opening our hearts to
Yep.
other cultures.
Yep.
What do you see about this idea? How would you hone it?
Well, no, I like it. At first I didn't know where it was going, but then when you talked about travel, about travel as the way to bring about more peace and healing. You didn't say healing, but I said healing. I like that. And it's that, and the challenge is that most people think that in order to travel, you have to have a lot of money. And you're actually refuting that. You're simplifying it. You're making it more accessible. But I love that idea. It made me think of there's a Cole Porter, I think it's a Cole Porter song. It's just about like why do the wrong people travel when the right people stay at home or something like that.
Yeah,
But it's I think, and I think in a particularly polarized, I always look at like what's the the big message, like how can that really affect change? And that is, and but also it's anchored in in simple steps, right? Because
yeah,
that's so,
yeah,
in a particularly polarized world where in the absence of knowing what other people are really about, we create all sorts of stories about we other people. You
yeah,
know, I think Barack Obama in his speeches, he talked about how like because I don't know you, because I don't take the time to know you, in that gap I create all sorts of caricatures about you and
yeah,
and memes and all that. It's because I don't know who you are, and the way that we actually understand each other better is to travel more.
yeah,
And you don't have to travel to, there are people from other worlds right here in your backyard. So if you actually, as I'm talking about this out loud, it's like, well, if you can also kind of talk about how it's like, yes, well, of course, there are people from other countries in your backyard, and why is it even more compelling to travel to other places where you're meeting people on their home turf or their countries of origin.
yeah.
What does that do to our, what does that change in our brain and in our orientation?
Hmm.
I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great.
I'm excited, and it feels to me like a purely generous contribution to humanity with no need to get clients or build my brand or get followers.
Yeah. Well, and Ted really, they sniffed that out. Like they that goes into its own pile if they think you're trying to sell. But if you feel like if you feel that your talk can move one person, change one person's life in one significant way, then you've got a TED in you, and that's what you should be thinking about. Like, who's that one person that needs to hear my talk because it's going to bring about some sort of transformation for them.
Yeah, cool.
God.
Thanks for your feedback. So you're a professional speaker. You get paid thousands of dollars for your keynotes, and you were mentioning you got really well paid for just a webinar as well. What lessons have you learned as a paid speaker, and what advice would you have to people who want to get paid well for their talks?
Yeah, so it seems like such hackneyed advice, right? The best way to get booked speaking is to speak more.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my calendar in the next 6 weeks. I've got like 6 speaking engagements, and some of them are paid and some of them aren't. And I don't really care as long as I'm in, and I've learned this from you, as long as I'm in front of my best fit client, there's huge opportunities to sell products and services and have impact. I think that, but it's not just about speaking. Frequently, it's about having a really good speech and really honing your craft. And what I have found too is doing the same speech over and over again is increasing my opportunities because I'm getting that much better with the talks that I'm giving, and I'm not constantly reinventing the wheel.
Great.
So it's that
I'm glad you said that.
yeah,
The only
80-20, right? Like I'll change 20%, if that, based on who's in the room, but having that signature speech, which is something I've worked on with you, and I know you help others to do, I think that's the gold. The other thing is the reason why we can have greater capacity to do more speaking is because we're not spending all that time having to customize speeches every time somebody says, hey, can you come and talk to my group? You're like, I can come to your group and this is what I speak on. Great. I can be there tomorrow.
yeah.
But it's so yeah, having that great speech and telling everybody in your network, this is what I do, and this is what I speak on, and who do you know that's looking to hire a speaker? That's the way that I've grown my business. It's the number one way that I've marketed my business and grown my business. And if you like speaking, that's even better. And if you don't like speaking, there might be other ways to get your thought leadership out there. But I think everybody can benefit from becoming a better speaker.
What do you say when people ask, what's your fee?
What do I say? What my speaking fee?
Yeah.
What's your budget? You taught me that, my friend. Yeah,
Yeah.
I no longer compete against myself. I don't negotiate against myself. But and then if they don't, and then if they ask for, if they say they don't have a fee, then I will tell them what my budget is, the ballpark. But if I really want to work with them, then I'll say I really want to work with you. I'm sure we can figure something out, and then we're negotiating. And
Yeah.
there are lots of non-tangibles that the conference and event organizers uh, can provide for you, whether it's video or whether it's access to their lists or a whole bunch of things. So
Yeah. So for example, you've got some speeches coming up that you're not getting paid. What's in it for you with those?
yeah, so actually this week I'm speaking in front of 100 business owners about the power of story to grow your business. And coming out of that, and I've learned this from you, it's offering them discovery calls, no charge, and it's a great way for me to see if it's a good fit and then to make my offer. But the being in front of a room of 100 business owners and engaging them with my the content and making it an interactive experience, I know that I'm going to walk away with business. And I've said now, and I said this to my clients too, if you don't walk away with either more speaking opportunities, more leads, more people in your network, and more clients, then you need to look at how you're showing up as a speaker. You should always be getting something every time you speak.
Hmm. Yeah. Good. How do people find you if they want to work with you on their TED Talk or their speech? Where do we send them?
So go to alansamuelcohen.com. It's all there. And I do also offer I do monthly speaker clinics. They're no charge. Come and work on your speech with me. We'll workshop it, and we'll give you some tools and some ideas, and no strings attached.
Amazing. You do that online?
I do that online.
It's very
It's
cool. I
called
didn't
the
know.
Connected Speakers Clinic, and you can see that also on my website.
Is that an hour, 2 hours?
That's an hour. That's an
Very
hour.
cool. That's a great offer.
So much fun.
Amazing.
So much fun.
Thank you, Alan. Great to see you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me.